It all started on a Tuesday, when Leonhard Seppala stepped out into a sky the color of old steel and felt the cold bite like a promise. He had come to Alaska as so many men did in those years, a Norwegian-born musher, steady hands, a team he trusted with his life. What none of them knew was that within days, the tiny frontier town of Nome would stand on the brink of catastrophe, and a relay of sled dogs would make headlines around the world. In January 1925, Nome, on the Seward Peninsula of western Alaska, was a remote outpost of sea ice and half-buried buildings. Winter had locked the coast in ice and gale. Ships could not reach the town. Then diphtheria appeared, a contagious, often lethal disease that preyed on children. There was no local antitoxin. The nearest supply was hundreds of miles away. Panic grew fast in a place where every person's survival depended on others' courage and endurance. Dr. Curtis Welch, the lone physician in Nome, wired Anchorage and beyond. An antitoxin was found and rushed by train to the railhead at Nenana. From Nenana to Nome lay roughly 674 miles across frozen rivers, tundra, and the treacherous Norton Sound, a stretch of sea ice that could turn from solid to rotten with little warning. With planes unreliable in Arctic winter storms, and with the urgency of a disease that could kill dozens of children in weeks, the answer was old and brutal: dogs and men in a relay. What followed became known as the Great Race of Mercy. It was a relay involving a chain of mushers who would carry a single serum-filled cylinder from Nenana to Nome. The plan was simple in outline and viciously difficult in practice. Teams ran in bitter darkness into whiteouts that erased the horizon. Temperatures plunged below -50 degrees. Wind-swept snow scoured faces to raw leather. Sled runners groaned and cracked. Dogs staggered from sleep deprivation and frozen paws. The schedule allowed no margin for error. Seppala's part of the relay would be the most dangerous and the longest, and it is his name that anchors this story. He and his lead dog, a seasoned husky named Togo, faced a nightmare no training could quite replicate. Their run carried them across the open ice of Norton Sound, miles of shifting, sometimes thin ice with channels of dark, freezing water. One wrong turn, one misjudged drift, and a team could be lost to the maw of the sea. Seppala pushed onward. He improvised, scouting ahead and choosing a route where others had not dared. At times, he broke trail through thigh-deep snow for his dogs. At others, he crept across patches of ice that groaned and flexed. Togo, who was older and smaller than the celebrated dogs that later made headlines, read the ice like a sailor reads a sky. He smelled rotten places and balked. Seppala listened and trusted him. Against weather that turned men inward with fear, they covered some of the longest miles of the relay and moved the serum into the hands of the next team. The final leg fell to Gunnar Kaasen, another skilled musher. Kaasen ran the last stretch with a lead dog named Balto. That final run through blizzard and night, the stretch that actually rolled into Nome and into Dr. Welch's hands, would become the image burned into newspapers, newsreels, and later schoolroom retellings. One sled, one dog, the town's salvation. Balto crossed through the howl and the whiteout and delivered the serum to the doctor who could inject it into the waiting children. The injection did its work. The immediate crisis passed. Lives were saved. And a remote frontier drama became an instant international story. Newspapers in New York and London splashed heroic art, a brave doghood leading men across the Arctic. The story fulfilled a deep hunger in the public imagination for a single recognizable hero. A symbol was needed, simple and marketable, and Balto was perfect. He was alive, charismatic, and present on the stage where the press worked its charm. What followed was not merely gratitude. It was an orchestrated ascent into legend. Parades were organized, photographs were taken for a hungry press. Balto was flown to a parade in Cleveland and later lionized in New York. Within months, the Alaska run had its central icon, a single lead dog, immortalized in bronze in Central Park.
Children learned the story in tidy syllables. Balto's image sold newspaper space and civic pride. That public story, however, concealed a more complicated truth. The relay was a collective act of endurance by many men and dozens of dogs across hundreds of dangerous miles. Leonhard Seppala and his dog Togo ran the longest and arguably the most perilous segment, the stretch that included the fatal seam of Norton Sound. Togo's leadership on that crossing, his instincts that forced course changes and saved the team from open water, were decisive. Yet Togo was smaller, older, and at a distance from the final ceremony. He could not be presented as the single savior in a way that fit the media narrative. This is where the conspiracy, not of murder or government malfeasance, but of narrative engineering, comes into focus. Editors and publicists favor simplicity. A single statue sells better than a list of contributions. Promoters preferred a neat arc: crisis, singular hero, triumphant symbol. That preference drove coverage. The mushers who had risked more time and miles, many of them Norwegian immigrants or itinerant Alaskan natives, were sidelined. The mechanics of the relay, the telegraph calls, the train schedules, the communal relay legs run by local volunteers, were compressed or ignored. What remained was a tidy tale sold to a public hungry for heroes and black and white photographs. That sidelining felt like betrayal to those who had been there. Seppala, in private and through letters, was blunt. Togo had risked more than Balto had, and the historical record had been bent by PR to make a marketable story. Newspapers rarely corrected the imbalance. The cynicism was not unique to Nome. It was a reflection of how modern media could manufacture celebrity, turning a complex human endeavor into an icon that suited urban tastes and civic boosterism. But history, slower than a headline, set its own corrections into motion. Over the following decades, historians and dog sled enthusiasts began to recover the fuller story. Seppala's breeds and training methods influenced American sled dog culture. Togo's feats were re-examined and given their proper weight. Articles, later commemorations, and the memories preserved by mushers and descendants pushed back against the simplistic narrative. Balto remained a beloved symbol, rightly honored for his final critical run, but Togo's legacy grew as well. The Great Race of Mercy emerged not as a single dog legend, but as a showcase of cooperative endurance. The relay's real conspiracy, then, was instructive rather than criminal. It was a demonstration of how the mechanisms of publicity reshape events, collapsing distributed heroism into a single, marketable emblem, elevating spectacle over nuance, and often erasing the harder-to-sell facts: immigrant labor, communal risk, and the messy bravery of small teams. The story of the Serum Run offers a documentary lesson about memory itself, how collective action can be compressed into myth, and how myth can be corrected when historians peel away the press kits. Today, the route is honored in the annual Iditarod and in scholarly retellings that emphasize the relay's bipartite truth. One dog did finish the final mile, and one dog led men across the most lethal sweeps of ice. Both were necessary. Both deserve remembrance. The antitoxin reached Nome. Children lived. A town that depended on each other in the worst of winters proved stubbornly, astonishingly alive. The dogs and the mushers paid with exhaustion and frostbite. The world paid with attention. What remains most striking is the human detail. Seppala standing over his team in the dim gray of an Arctic morning, rubbing blood from a paw, listening for the groan of thin ice. Kaasen steering blind, a lead dog's fur whipping with snow, a man praying he wouldn't miss the town lights. Dr. Welch, hands steady for the medicine that might be the town's last hope. And in the press rooms, thousands of miles away, editors deciding which angle would sell and which facts they could afford to fold into the background. The Great Race of Mercy is adventure in its rawest, most moral form. Men and animals moving against weather and time, risking everything to reach others. It is also a cautionary tale about how stories are told and who gets to be the hero in those stories. In the end, both Balto and Togo lived in public memory, one as a polished icon and the other as the quiet, stubborn engine of survival. The truth is more crowded and more human. A relay of strangers, a handful of dogs, a doctor with steady hands, and a town that would not surrender. That January, in the glare of cold and the roar of wind, they stitched life back into a remote place with nothing but courage, skill, and the stubborn belief that help could arrive by any means necessary.